Welcome to the Empower Hour podcast. I am your host, Amber Dobkins, and the purpose of this podcast is to inspire women to embrace their inner voice and speak their truth. We are continuing a series called Embody Your Most Courageous Self. You will hear from 8 amazing women on how they embodied their power and their courage. And today's guest is a powerful woman who went from struggling with PTSD, high anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, perfectionism, extreme thinking, and zero self-worth to becoming a transformation and trauma healing coach. She made the decision to change her life on December 30th, 2009, when she decided that she was done being her own worst enemy. She was done being depressed and hating herself. Now she is a certified level 1 Reiki healer, a body code expert, and intuitive quantum healing practitioner. Not only all of this, but she's also an author in the upcoming book, Jaguar Medicine, which comes out in January 2022. And her chapter is called Queen of the Jungle, Stepping into Your Power and Letting Go of Fear. I'm so excited to read her chapter and to chat today with my Jaguar sister, Heather Harrison. Welcome, Heather.
Hello. Thank you for the introduction.
Of course. I loved researching you. You have a beautiful website. Your Facebook is lined out so well that it's so easy to get to know you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So it was fun learning about you. And one of the things that I learned is that you get to wake up every day full of adventure, a life full of adventure, freedom, and on your own terms in Nicaragua.
See, yes, we moved to San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua, December 31st of last year. So we're quickly approaching our 1 year down here in this really beautiful country, and we love it.
It looks beautiful. I've seen pictures on Facebook and I'm from the US, so you don't hear about Nicaragua a whole lot, or I never did. But I got to go to Guatemala this year, and Nicaragua reminds me of Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. It's so beautiful. The water, the mountains, like greenery. I just love the pictures that I see.
Well, yeah, the whole region, like Central America, the rainforest, it's really captivating. It's a beautiful, beautiful land.
Yes, absolutely. So was that a big change for you and your family, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so we're originally from Texas. And when, kind of the world went into wherever we are now, turned upside down, my husband got laid off. I've been an entrepreneur now for over 10 years. I've been an online entrepreneur now for 7.5 years. And I was like, well, if you're going to get laid off and job market is not really great right now, why don't we do what we always wanted to do and just live a life of adventure? So it started with 6 months RVing through the United States. And then my best friend had moved down here to Nicaragua and got to see all of her beautiful pictures and what it was like. So we took the leap of faith and came down here too. And it's probably not forever, but it's beautiful for right now. We love it.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I, I mean, I'm sure that took so much courage to just take that leap and be like, let's just do it. And you have little ones, like little kids.
My husband thinks I'm crazy. I'm like the queen of surrender. I am the person that just will just jump off the cliff, right? And just figure it out on my way down.
Well, that is definitely a life full of adventure, but it sounds like a lot of freedom too.
For sure. And I think that's what most people chase, what most people really are missing, what they're wanting out of life. And I hope to inspire other people to, do whatever it is that they need to do to get in line with that and live that life for themselves, whatever, whether that's living on a boat or having your dream house or, everybody has their own version of what freedom and happiness looks like. But to inspire that in others is what I crave most.
I love that. And I think we all need that inspiration and to be able to see that it is possible. And you are an example of that, where people can look to you and say, well, Heather did it. So it's encouraging to see other people do it, and then to be able to look at our own lives and say, well, I may not be able to just leave the country, but where can I find that freedom within my own life?
Exactly. I am nobody special, which is why I am so vulnerable about my imperfections. Having a social media platform, I think there's a lot of times we romanticize people on social media and we try to think that they have it all together all the time and there's something special about them. And I'm really big in trying to bring that full circle back around to people of like, if I can do this, if I can radically change my life, if I can become, from a really depressed person into a very happy and positive person, anybody can. Anybody can.
Yes, it's so true. I do believe that anybody can do it. I think it's so important to have the support and to really look within your side inside yourself to find that inner wisdom or that freedom within yourself to say, now's the time and I'm ready to do it, and go seek out that support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, the other day we chatted before the podcast, and you had an amazing quote. I believe it's on your Facebook page that I really loved, and I'd love to share it and see, get more of your thoughts on it.
Okay.
That, that quote is by Audrey Hepburn, and it is, "For poise, walk with the knowledge that you never walk alone. People, more than anything, have to be restored, renewed, revived, reclaimed, and redeemed. Remember, if you ever need a helping hand, you will find one at the end of each of your arms. As you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others."
Mhm. I
So
love it.
beautiful.
Yes. And it's so true. We tend to seek outside of ourselves a lot, somebody to come save us and outside external acceptance and validation. And it's only when we truly get to a point of being able to help ourselves that
Mhm.
we can turn around and help other people. And I meet so many people who have that desire and that heart to help others. I'm magnetic for other empaths, right? And we tend to put ourselves last. And that usually just ends up, you know, limiting our ability to serve other people. It's when we step into our own power that we can shine that light bright enough to truly help other people.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Just um as a mom and a wife, and I was a stay-at-home mom, so it wasn't like I had a job to go to. I mean, my kids, doing the housework and being the homemaker was a job. But my kids are adults now, and looking back at many of the times that I overgave or depleted myself, and then therefore when I was giving to my kids, it was from a depleted state. It wasn't from an empowered state. And learning to take care of myself, eventually, it took me years to learn that it's okay to take care of myself and it's not selfish. And actually, I'm a better mother, and I come to the table overflowing and ready to give to my family or to others, and even myself, when I take those times to nourish and nurture myself as much as I do others.
Yes, I think that is one of the biggest lessons to learn inside of motherhood. Because unfortunately, the way our society is structured now, we don't have the village we used to have in our smaller communities. And so motherhood has kind of shifted a lot, which has put most women, in this place of self-deprivation and putting themselves last, not taking that time. And it's a hard lesson, one that's full of a lot of struggle until you finally hit that wall of realization of, oh, I really need to take care of myself, or I'm not showing up as best as I can.
Yeah, and then
So,
eventually, I believe it leads to the things that our ailments, our pains, our the anxiety, the all of those things that come with it when we're fully depleted, just completely drained, and we're still trying to show up. I think it's easier for those things to sneak in and take over.
for sure, you talk about trauma and mindset, and that's 100% true of, even just sleep deprivation and what that does to your mindset, and how much patience you're going to be able to have with your kids, and how your tone of voice, all of that is affected just by sleep deprivation. So you think of that in terms of everything else going on too, and all the other ways you put yourself last. It really has a dramatic effect on how you show up.
Yes. Yes. So self-care is not selfish. For anyone that's watching and you feel like self-care is selfish, it definitely isn't. You show up better because of it.
Self-care, self-love, self-worth, those are all a lot of pillars of my brand and my message. Even before I stepped into my coaching business, when I was a health and wellness coach, most of my messaging to other women was self-love and self-care, because that's what most women need most, I feel like, right? Again, there's a lot of women out there really struggling to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that comes with a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and a lot of struggle.
Yes, absolutely. It is a much needed message and one that never gets old to hear from someone who I do take care of myself now, but I still love the quotes and I love the energy that comes from someone still sharing that message. So it's powerful.
Well, it's easy, right? Because life gets so busy. It's kind of easy to slip back into those old tendencies. It's like this ongoing, you have to continue to try, you have to continue to go forward. The second you kind of slip back into autopilot, you go right back to old programs and your old way of thinking, and you'll get right back to that same place. So, even for myself, I still, and I teach it. I still have to be like consciously aware of, okay, have I taken enough self-time today, self-care time today? I used to do self-care once a week, and that needed to turn into a little bit every day.
Mhm.
That was better for my mindset. And so even, days if I feel like I have too much to do or there's too much going on, it's so easy for me to tell myself, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow. I don't need to meditate today. It's no big deal, but it is, right? So it's a constant um, focus that we kind of have to have, or an awareness really, that we have to make sure we're taking good care of ourselves.
Absolutely. I have found that, just as you said, a daily routine. And not that I have to do the same thing every day, but in the morning, I really try to start in a way that feeds me instead of drains me. And so, what is that? Sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's meditating, sometimes it's just taking a bath or sleeping in. But listening to that, really.
And I mean, the morning is the most powerful time to do it. Even before my husband gave me the capability of sleeping in, my kids wake up super early, and he's a much better early bird than I am. So he takes the kids' duty in the morning and allows me to have almost 45 minutes to an hour to myself, still in my bedroom, so I can go through whatever practices I want for that day. I would take the time to wake up earlier than the kids, because
Mm.
how you start your morning sets up your entire rest of the day. And once you have that trigger that sets you off, or that frustration, it's harder to get back to that peace or that calm, that tranquility, if you haven't done something in the morning to really harness that or establish that for the day.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It does make the whole day, it sets a tone for the whole day.
Yeah, I recommend to everybody, like, turn off social media, turn off your emails. I don't get on any of that for like the first 2 hours of my day.
That's great advice. I have found that to be beneficial also. Yeah, and you recently were without social media for an extended period of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had to do a little bit on my computer, but not having my phone, drop my phone in the ocean. Oh, darn, consequences of being at the beach. And ended up having to get a new one brought in. So a whole week without my phone. And it was so enlightening. Even me, somebody that is very mindful of my screen time, every day when my kids get home from school, I tried to set aside like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., which is their bedtime, the time they get home, to the time for bed, of no phone time, putting it away. But all the other time, right, that I'm working, my work hours, how often I would just pick it up to look at it. and I wasn't even aware that I was doing that until I would feel that urge and it wasn't there. I was like, what am I doing? And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, where's my phone? Wait, why am I looking for my phone again? I think it's such an easy habit for us to fall into and not even be consciously aware that we have it. Another thing I really realized too was how much, two things actually I'll share. One, how much of my emotional state was being influenced by things on my phone, right? Like I was being influenced by whatever I was seeing on social media or my email or whatnot. And having a hard time distinguishing, oh, is this my emotion or is this something that I, got from the phone? Number two, this was really eye-opening. EMF radiation and how much it actually drained my energy, keeping it on my body at all times, right? Because I would have it in my pocket or close to me. And I did not fully understand how much that was making me tired. Because that week without my phone, a whole new sense of energy. And I didn't change anything else in my routine. I just didn't have a radiation box on my body.
Those are some powerful lessons from something that someone would look at as a negative experience, like, oh, my phone. But really, there was such a beautiful lesson in it.
So many, and learning to surrender into my business because I couldn't be as available to my clients or to my email. So if I'm away from the house, I don't have my computer, I had to surrender and trusting like I'll be able to get to it later and my business is still going to be okay. And my clients are not going to feel like I am ignoring them or whatnot. It was a really beautiful experience. And I really feel like the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call divine intelligence, puts us in challenges to have the breakthroughs. Now we have the free will choice of whether we want to sign up for the assignment and see the lesson inside the challenge, which is sometimes very hard, but no doubt that happened for a reason. And thankfully I showed up for the assignment.
Yes, and you have so much wisdom to share because of it.
Yeah, now I didn't even know it was on the iPhone, you can set I guess timers for different apps, like how much time you can set on them and lock them for certain times of the day. So I have it all set up and I can't get on any of my social media apps from noon to 7 anymore. It's a habit I want to keep in play.
I love that. I wanted to teach my kids are adults now, but as teenagers, some teenagers are, and even adults, I'm not judging a teenager, but just having that knowledge and people so accessible to you, it is easy to keep it near you and to want to be available. But what one of the things that my son and I did, and I don't remember the name of the app, but there's an app out there that will it sets a timer, and I think you can set the time limit, but we would do 15 minutes, and for 15 minutes the app will grow a tree very slowly, and if you do anything to your phone, the tree dies, and it keeps track of, like, it builds a forest. So when my son was a teenager, we would talk about how big is your forest, and did you let a tree die today, and those sorts of things. But it was a fun way to train ourselves not to click on the phone, and unless we absolutely needed to.
I love that for kids, right? Because for teenagers or for kids, that's a really good visual and kind of a game, right? It kind of makes it a game. That's a beautiful app. Whoever created that, that's awesome.
Yes, I love it. And I have a question for you about the EMF. Have you found a solution for that, or do you just keep your phone further away from you now?
Right now I keep it further away from me. I've looked into, I forget, there is a specific type of crystal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts with an O.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Was it shungite?
There's that one, and there's one that starts with an O, I believe. Or the pyramids. that can help with EMF radiation. But if you have it on your phone, I think it interferes with the Wi-Fi signal. So it's just best not to have it on your body as often. Put it down and like walk away, and turn on, the sound notifications so you will hear the ding if somebody is calling, and then you don't have to sit there and have it on you or keep looking at it. Or like even now, I don't put it in my pocket anymore. I'll put it in my purse just because, yeah, it was a really big eye opener of how much it drains your energy.
Yeah, for sure. I can only imagine we're surrounded by electronics anymore and EMF and all of those things. So it is good to be aware of it, and really it does affect our bodies, not only our energy, but I've also heard that health-wise it can affect as well. Of course, if we're being drained, our energy is being drained, that does affect our adrenal system and then goes into our chakra system, and there's so many things that it's like a domino effect. So being aware of that and really make a conscious choice to change that, I think is powerful.
For sure. I mean, and I've been somebody who has, like, I don't have it by my bedside table when I sleep at night. I keep it on the other side of the room, and I turn it on airplane mode. So there's no Wi-Fi, there's no cell service signal, or completely turn it off. Just so, there's not the interference with your sleep cycle. Because if you're sleeping with your phone plugged in right next to your bed, with it turned on, it most certainly is interrupting your sleep patterns.
Yeah, it's true. So good idea. Airplane mode. I have actually put my phone in the bathroom, like it's in the other room, and left it there overnight. But sometimes I do wake up like looking for my phone, and I know that's sad. That's a sad reality. But sometimes it's just like I'll play meditation music or something. It's not always to get on social media, but still, that is my reaction in the morning, to look for my phone. So.
Well, I use it as a clock too. I don't like wearing stuff on my wrist. So I used to have watches. I don't even have a watch anymore. Here in Nicaragua, I have not even seen a clock to buy. I mean, I know they have them, right? But in our little town, we're limited to, what's available to us. But it was like, I keep it as my sense of time also, which is probably another reason why I was looking at it so much. But if you have the capability to let go of time, there's a lot of beauty and a lot of presence and a lot of mindfulness that can come with that, of not trying to be caught up in time at every moment.
That's an interesting concept. I love what you're saying here, and I dabble in the quantum, and what is time really? There's so many layers that we could peel on this, but it's true. This morning I woke up, my husband got up early, and I thought it was time to get up, and I looked at the clock and it was 5 a.m. and I'm like, it's not time to get up. So then whether my body wanted to be awake or not, my mind was like, go back to sleep. And then what happened was, my husband and I were both awake, and we're like, I think we're just awake. Like, I think we can just get up and get on with our day, no matter what time it is.
Right. I mean, our society and as humans, we've invented time, right? The construct of time. And then we've built basically our entire societal structure around it. And it's almost its own prison cell, right? It's almost its own jail cell, to be so dependent on what time it is, and be here at this time and be there at this time, and just all of it. Where if you can let go of that, even if it's just for a day or a few hours a day, you can find more presence in the moment, and more peace and more joy and just more ease and flow, I feel like.
I agree. I've been to Belize, and in Belize they do not keep time. They literally have clocks on the wall where all the numbers are crumbled in a pile at the bottom, and they say they're on Belize time. There is no time. So it is very freeing to let go of that. And I know sometimes, we have to pick the kids up at a certain time, or there's some things that there are parameters around it. But if you could, like you say, in the morning, have so much time that you can let go of time and be fully present with yourself, and set an alarm, maybe like you mentioned, to where you can just be in the moment and listen to your body and not listen to what's next, what time is it, what, like, the times. It's not just a time, it means something to you. And like for me, 5 a.m. was like, it's not time to be awake, when really it was for my body.
Right. We have Nika time down here as well. I think there's so much beautiful nuggets inside of other cultures, because, you know, Western society is so hustle driven and time driven and money driven. And when you step into a second or third world country, there is a lot of beautiful life lessons where they're still more connected to the earth. They're still more connected to the roots of their cultures, of how we used to function in our past villages, that I think we really need, because a lot of the Western culture society constructs drain us as humans and our souls versus, you know, fulfill us or give us more purpose or more meaning. So yeah, here in Nicaragua, if somebody tells you they'll be at your house at 12, they might show up at 12:30.
And it's just accepted. It's okay, it sounds like.
They'll tell you tranquilo, you know, which just means no worries, relax. Everything down here just got like this beautiful ease and flow to it. There is not a lot of, there's structure in where, like, a good amount of structure, but not to the point of it just being about the structure. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm thinking about all the times that maybe I was meeting a girlfriend for coffee and I was a minute late and I just beat myself up over it, like I have to be there on time, when it really, I was just stressing myself out more and being hard on myself, judging myself over a minute. Like it's okay.
Yeah. You know, I've worked on my anxiety now since 2009, right? So 12, 13 years. And I thought I was in a very good place with my anxiety until I moved here. And then, I went probably from being one of the most relaxed people in the United States to being one of the most anxious people still here in San Juan. And it was very eye-opening to me about how much time and being at certain places and all of these little tiny things that I was still having a lot of anxiety about. I think that's one of the biggest culture shocks when people move down here. It's hard, it's challenging, but it's very rewarding and fulfilling when you can start to let go of those things and ease up and embrace tranquilo and just have more flow. It really is just more ease and more flow.
Yes. That word it's just calming as you say it. And can you just break it down for us so we can maybe use it in our practices?
Flow?
The tranquilo.
Tranquilo. Yeah. The translation is relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
And it really is it really just means for people just to kind of let go, right? Like there is no judgment. There's a lack of judgment and there's a lack of or a lot of forgiveness, right? Tranquilo, no big deal. Like at my old apartment here, when we first got here, we stayed at a different condo. My dog was obnoxiously barking at the neighbor, and she's, and I'm mortified, right? Because we just moved in 2 weeks prior, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, he's barking, and she is sitting in her rocking chair just laughing. It's like, tranquilo, it's no big deal, just a barking dog, she's not judging me, or, so it's a beautiful practice of forgiveness and non-judgment and just allowing whatever is to be what it is. instead of trying to force and control and get anxious and riled up and stressed. Just tranquilo, let it go. It's okay. Let the flow be, allow it to be what it is.
I love that. That is, I just you talking about it, I just am like so calmed by it, like a baby rocking in a chair.
It'll be a very interesting culture shock, if and when we move back to the United States. That'll definitely be a piece that I won't ever want to let go of.
Yeah, I could see why. It's very comforting
Mm-hmm.
in a
And there's
good way.
right, and there's a lot of people who stay down here, right? There's a ton of expats from Canada, Australia, Europe, the United States. They've been here in San Juan for 7, 10, 15 years. And part of it is that tranquilo, that lifestyle. Because when they go back to Western society, there's so much stress and there's so much expectation and there's so much judgment. And, and when you feel the freedom of what it means to let go of those things, the happiness and the joy, the meaningfulness that can come back into your being, you don't want to go back to that.
Yeah,
All of
absolutely.
the lack of modern day conveniences is not enough to go back to all of the stress and noise of the hustle and bustle of Western culture.
Yeah. That's an eye opener. It's something that some awareness that we can bring into each of our lives. Of course, our culture. We can look at our whole culture, but we can only change our own lives. So I think it's beautiful that you're speaking into that and to where we can look at, maybe we want some more freedom around that, or maybe there's other areas that are stressors in our life, or where we're judging ourselves, or feels just really draining, that we can look at and say, do I really need this? Just because we do this in the Western world doesn't mean that I have to take it on into my life.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, talking about some of the good things that have come out of the last 2 years, people's ability to work remotely and having that sense of freedom and understanding, that they don't want to be sitting in traffic, for an hour or two every day, and the stress and the anxiety that comes with that, how they can still be productive while enjoying their time in their life. There's been a lot of good that has come from those experiences, built around the ideas of less stress and freedom and letting go a little bit of a lot of that. The
Yes.
9 to 5, right?
I agree. I've seen the beauty in it. Of course, there's been some tragedy through it, but there's been a lot of beauty in just how we've changed the way we live, how we do life, and connecting. I've connected with more people in the last year or two online. Like, I just feel deep connections, and it's more intentional. I set time aside to really make sure I have that connection.
I love that. I think that, some people would have probably experienced the opposite, but connection, I think, takes intention, right? And for a while, we were always confined to our geographical area of the people we're able to connect with. And if you don't find like-minded people or people who share the same beliefs or same spiritual practices, it can be more isolating. Kind of like the good thing that's come with the internet is it's kind of opened up communities of like-minded people to connect, from across the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's all kind of how you look at it. And like you said, where you put your intentions. It's powerful.
Everything is about perspective. That is something we don't always want to hear, because inside of that takes a lot of personal responsibility. And when we're still sitting in pain, when we're still sitting in our hurt or in our victim state, accepting any type of personal responsibility, even just about the perspective that we're having, right? It's not necessarily our personal responsibility for how people treat us, although that's kind of arguable too. But our perspective is something that we have control over if we take the intentional practices to be mindful of it. And this is why I come back to things like your subconscious mind and reprogramming yourself and becoming conscious, becoming awake, so you can take control over what's going on in here and it not controlling you. I was told by numerous doctors that I would be struggling with PTSD and some level of depression the rest of my life, that it had altered my brain, that there was no way I was going to get around some of those traumas. And the best thing I could do was to manage it so it didn't control me. And I think if you compared my brain now to my brain back in 2009, it would look like two completely different brains. We can absolutely heal ourselves from trauma completely and change our programs and our subconscious mind and our brain. Like neuroscience is such an incredible field. Like I'm a super nerdy person when it comes to the science and the quantum and all of the things that actually align with and back up a lot of spiritual things that we've known for a very, very, very long time. I've kind of forgot where I was going with all of this. How I got off on this.
Sharing though.
But personal responsibility, right? That when you become awakened, you take yourself off autopilot, you're conscious, then you can control your perspective. You can learn to allow your feelings and work through them in a very healthy way so that your emotions are not having control over you. It's not about controlling your emotions. It's about allowing them and knowing, healthy coping mechanisms to work through them so that they aren't controlling you. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think so much of our emotions, like you mentioned, the science and the quantum and all of those things, our emotions can affect us physically to where we deplete ourselves, like where we get disease and illness and all of those things. So we're not just a physical body, we're not just an emotional body. It all intertwines and works together. And when we figure out how to maintain and work with one, it seems to fall into working with the other.
Mm-hmm. For sure. There's like this balance, right? Between our physical body, our emotional body, and our spiritual body. And, wanting to create balance inside of those. If any one of them has too much, it's going to kind of throw your system off a little bit. Talking about emotional states. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in February of 2017. And I have done a lot of holistic practices. Like I was on medication. I put myself into almost complete remission, being on a vegan, very, very plant-based diet. And then I got pregnant, and pregnancy disrupts everything all over again. And since then, I've had a hard time, one, being strict again on my diet, and two, getting my thyroid back into a healthy level. I had this realization last week without my phone. so many beautiful epiphanies. 2 months before I was diagnosed with my thyroid, I went through a very traumatic experience. And it was a trauma, an experience that I haven't healed from, right? Like I came up on the anniversary of that because it happened the end of November, early December. And I realized that it was that trauma, the unresolved emotional states that I was still holding on to, that was the underlying root cause of my thyroid issue. And kind of just got this download, if that's what you want to call it, that you've got to heal this, and then the thyroid won't be a problem anymore.
Wow.
And, yeah.
How freeing to know though that it's in your capacity to deal with the one thing so that everything else just falls into flow and heals kind of itself.
Right. And some people would say I'm absolutely bonkers for thinking that. But if you look at the neuroscience that Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing and the epigenetics behind it, trauma triggers gene expression. Your genes are not a loaded gun. You can change the way your genes express themselves. And he's seen incredible, like people who didn't have eyesight restore their eyesight, or who were in stage 4 cancer and then literally didn't have cancer in their body anymore by healing their nervous system, their subconscious mind, and connecting into a deep, deep meditative state. So healing is such an important component for overall health and wellness, right? It's not just about your emotional state, it's about your physical body too. The Body Keeps Score is another beautiful book with science behind how trauma creates illness and disease. There's a lot out there kind of talking about that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I actually got to see him live once, and I mean, seeing him on video is amazing, but seeing him live, there's just an energy, and he has really spent his life wanting to understand this quantum and the body and how the mind and emotions and ailments all work together. So I love his books. Bruce Lipton, and like there's so many things where spirituality and science and emotions are all coming together. They're not fighting against each other anymore. They're just, we just didn't have the maybe the equipment or some of the things to actually record what we
Mhm.
couldn't see. And now we have those instruments where we can see the quantum and say, hey, this actually lines up with science. It's actually proving science on a deeper level, and science is proving the quantum on a deeper level, and they're just intertwining together. It's so beautiful to see and be in this time to be able to trust it, feel it, but also know it and see it.
And experience it. Like, what a time to be alive, to be a part of what I think is like the next huge push in human evolution.
Yeah.
If we all really understand how much our mind creates our reality
Mm.
and put in practices to play with that idea, the entire world can change and shift. This is the whole idea behind the new earth. That's the whole premise of it. It's people waking up and acknowledging that they're a spiritual body, having a human experience, right? Not the other way around, a human body with a soul, your spiritual body first, and that you are not trapped in this physical 3D reality of whatever that is for you, trauma, poverty, your life circumstances, that you have the capacity and the control to change those things, and not necessarily by going out there and fighting against it. A few years ago, I would have been one of those people on the front lines and protesting, all of the craziness happening in this world. And now I realize some of that's important, to be vocal, to speak your truth, right? But when you're fighting against something, when you're trying to push, when you're trying to control matter, as Dr. Joe explains, it's such a harder process. It's such a longer process. And when you can tap into the spiritual side first, then you can shift things energetically that radically change everything, right? And what a better way to become your most courageous self is to understand that premise and to dive into it and connect to it, right? That's how you really can take leaps of faith and understand that you are supported, and surrender and still feel safe to do so.
Absolutely. Yes. I feel like that, and maybe you've already shared a lot about what's in your chapter, but it just feels like the title of your chapter dovetails into what you just said, and probably everything that you've been sharing.
Yeah, I share some really good stories inside my chapter that I'll let the chapter explain. But the entire premise behind it, the message that came through for me was about surrendering and what that really means, because we hold on to so much fear. And unfortunately, there are there's a lot out there, right, that tries to push fear.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to give up fear and to feel safe and to surrender. But if you understand, who you really are, and you surrender into that and into the divine intelligence, it's like an entire awakening and just like this beautiful blossoming that can happen into who you really are, um, and the kind of life you can live.
Absolutely.
Queen of the jungle, right?
Yes.
Embodying the strength of the jaguar. The jaguar is not scared.
No.
What is the jaguar scared of? Like literally nothing.
Yeah, it's amazing stepping into this book. I mean, I knew some things about Jaguar, but doing more research by entering the book and writing the chapter. Oh my goodness, Jaguar is like the warrior of the jungle. But it's also so intentional, like the way the jaguar moves, the way it attacks and for its prey. It'll even attack an alligator in the water, and it's in the alligator's own element, where a big cat is usually has restriction in the water, and it wins so often. And so just to see the precision and the intention and the courage and fearlessness of the jaguar has brought so much medicine into my life, and realizing the energy, and I can just tap into that energy through looking at the jaguar and how it is in nature.
Right. For sure. I felt deeply, deeply inspired by researching too. I knew a little bit. My energy healing and spirituality practices have never been really rooted in shamanism, although I think it's a beautiful practice.
Mhm.
So this actually kind of guided me into that, Jaguar medicine, animal medicine, that's a very shamanic principle. And it was so beautiful to understand what the Jaguar medicine is and be inspired by it, right? Changed by it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, for sure. It has been powerful to see. And then the subtitle of the book, I love the fierce feminine frequency keepers birthing the new earth. And this is our time to really, it is through frequency. Like before, I feel like so many times we've done it physically. We've tried to make changes physically, as you mentioned, through protests and things like that, which they have their place in their time. But I think now is the time to do it energetically and through our own healing, and raise our own frequency and spread that out into the world, connecting with the earth and with nature, and whatever else that may raise our frequency to I don't want to use the word fight, but kind of like to stand,
Mhm.
for ourselves and for our legacy and our future.
To create the change, right? To
Yeah.
counteract the agenda. It would be easy to try to go back to, fighting in the older methods, but we are becoming more conscious. Our consciousness is definitely increasing, and we understand, the war on drugs, the war on teen pregnancy, the war on whatever has just created more of it. It hasn't solved any problems. So you really want to change yourself first and change your frequency, your energy, your being, and that is going to spread way faster and way more peacefully than old school methods.
Absolutely. I agree.
And what a beautiful time for women, I think. Talking about like the patriarchy and just kind of how women have been in this position where they haven't recognized their power.
Hmm.
Like women are the portals of this world. We literally bring life here. We've got so much power and so much strength. And I think that we're naturally more connected to the divine energy because we're the life bearers. And, us having our moment again, that those ideas coming back, because we used to be the shamans, we used to be the medicine women and the healers in our communities. And I think it's just such a beautiful time to be a woman and to tap back into that, right? To go through the journey of understanding that, and then figuring out what that means to you individually and the uniqueness that every woman has inside of them. Like, I'm a big believer in like everybody has their own light and their own gift that they're meant to shine in this world. And that's why I do what I do, because I love trying to help women figure out what that is and start embodying that and embracing that and showing up in that way. It's an incredible thing to watch women, step into that power.
Yes, absolutely. And you're welcome to share, like, how can people get in contact with you or work with you, and how do you do your work, I guess, would be a good question.
So my company is called The Heart-Centered Woman. And I have a website. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. Right now, I'm just finishing up my program of Becoming Heart-Centered. It was a 6-week program where I helped women retrain their self-talk. So it focused a lot on self-talk, and then showing up as finding your authentic voice, and harnessing self-love, like really cultivating what I call radical self-love. And so I'm just finishing up this course. I'm going to do it again in February of next year. I've watched 11 women come off of autopilot and step back into the driver's seat of their life. And that's really what, like, I'm teaching the course. And as much as I have kind of like planned and laid out what it was, it also developed into its own thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it came back down to, it was just an awakening for these women.
Yeah.
I was like, you're crazy. It was beautiful. So I'm going to do that again for sure in February of next year. Here at the end of this month, I'm doing a free 3-day Zoom event, which it'll be recorded too, but it's all about manifesting. It's called Manifesting Goals. Over the last 7 years, I've been able to manifest 90% of whatever I've put on my vision board. I'm a big believer in having that vision and stepping into that. And I mix, I've got life coach training and the goal oriented and how to help people stay on track with their action plans and whatever, with the energetic side of that, of the embodying and visualizing and the laws of the universe, and combining those two instead of it just being one or the other. I think that's what's helped me be so successful. So I'll be teaching that. That'll be the December 27th, 28th, and 29th. They can register on my website if they want to come and be a part of that. I have a Facebook group called Heart to Heart Center, where I just shower in all of the self-love and self-care tips and all of that kind of stuff in there as well. So there's definitely lots of different avenues I'm trying to, connect with people on and just get the message out, right? Like, I just want to inspire other people to heal themselves and understand the beauty that life can have. When I came out of my depression, it was literally like seeing in color for the first time. It's such a dramatic shift of, taking yourself off of fear and, not being stuck inside of your trauma and in your hurt, and healing that in a way that is very soothing. Like, I've created a 6-step process for working through triggers that it's kind of close to the RAIN. I don't know if you've heard of RAIN. There's a RAIN exercise, but it's kind of similar to that, but it allows you to kind of work through your hurt and your triggers in a very healthy way that is a part of allowing, but reparenting yourself, doing the shadow work and the inner work, that I think has really helped a lot of people find healing, because that's what people need most, is healing.
I agree. Yeah. And you have a podcast also, is that correct?
I do. There's so much going on. Yes, the Heart-Centered Woman podcast. I've taken a couple week hiatus as I've kind of dived into writing the chapter and a couple other projects I've worked on. But I've got a new podcast episode, 2 new podcast episodes coming out this week. One will be tomorrow and one will be on Friday. Just talking about boundaries. And, so I tried to mix the psychological, like my background is in psychology. I have my bachelor's degree and I've got other certificates, neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavioral therapies with the spiritual and the energetic side. And combining the two where they meet, I think creates a really beautiful space for people to find their authentic voice and heal the trauma and establish radical self-love and start showing up authentically and shining their light.
I love it. And I follow Heather on Facebook. I don't know that I follow you anywhere else, but she is very encouraging and inspiring and posts beautiful pictures of her hair, just curly, and you just always look adorable. And the things that you share, it just is very inspiring and encouraging. And I always love reading your posts.
Thank you. Before I got into life coaching, I was a hairdresser. That's where all of this comes from.
Well, it's lovely. You're rocking it.
It's my authentic self, right? Like,
yes, exactly. It's an expression for sure. Yeah, so go follow Heather on all the platforms. She's on many, so find her somewhere and follow her because it is great to see her posts. So I just want to thank you so much for being here with me, Heather. It's been a joy and really enjoyed getting to know you, hearing about your chapter and your story and just how you embodied that courage and stepped forward into who you are today.
Thank you. I have to say, I really believe that the pleasure is all mine, Amber. I appreciate having this opportunity to share my message with other women and get to know you and connect with you more. I'm so thankful for Jaguar Medicine and the book and the community that we have with these incredible women. It's been such a big blessing in my life for sure. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And I agree. Jaguar Medicine it's been a very supportive container to share our stories and I mean, just the cover of the book alone is so activating. So it has definitely, for me, been an activating experience. And I've gotten to know some amazing women along the way.
For sure.
All right. Well, I will finish with a quote that I'm leaving for this series. So that quote is, "You hold the courage within. Just allow it to emerge moment by moment until you embody your most courageous self." I love it too. It's been amazing. So thank you all for watching and for meeting Heather, and we will see you next time.